All right, ETM Hotep. ETM Hotep. I know the intro was cut a little short. That's how bad, that's how, you know, quick we want to get it in for tonight. We know it's late. Um, so again, ETM Hotep, welcome in peace. This is your brother Wujau. Welcome to the Sesh Netcher YouTube channel. Today's January 15th, and it's Wednesday. We're doing a late session. So, appreciate anybody tuned in. We have 12,000, 13,000 people watching us. So that's all good. So tonight's discussion is just to have a discussion, but, the focus is to underscore, highlight, whatever we could do, scream, advocate, make known, etc. The fact that Kemet is unmicrowavable. And before I explain that, let me pass the mic and let everyone else introduce themselves to you all.
Hello, Peppermint. We're Imiket. My name is Imiket, and I would just like to welcome you all to the show.
ETM Hotep, Brittany, Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. Again, man, like she said, we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Tell a friend, share the link. Let's get the people in the building, man. Like-minded individuals willing to learn.
All right. So he
We
also
also
had.
have Saint June, but I know he can't be on the microphone right now, but yeah.
All right. And I think your mic is a little low there.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we have Sin June in the building. He may give us a cameo speech. Okay, so the topic, Kemet is unmicrowavable. And so if anybody's been on Facebook for the past few years, there's a thing that we say on Facebook, microwave scholarship. And it means what it implies. The microwave oven, it's an analogy, a metaphor, actually, figurative. And we've been talking about figurative expressions a lot. The microwave takes your food and cooks it real fast, and you don't have to cook it in a conventional oven where it takes a lot longer. But we know how the microwave does. Microwave food is not the same quality as conventionally cooked food. And so we have this thing, microwave scholarship, where people rush through the process of investigating information. And in doing so, they are prone to errors and mistakes. And we see that a lot. And so just overall, we're advocating Kemet on any level of conversation is unmicrowavable. Okay? Kemet is wrapped in aluminum foil, um, you know, uh, um, an explosive box. If you put Kemet in a microwave, it's going to explode on you. So that's how unmicrowavable it is. You know how microwave caution you, don't put tinfoil in a microwave. It'll start sparking and blow the microwave oven up. Well, Kemet is wrapped in metal, okay? It's in a metal coffin box, and you can't put it in a microwave. And so what I mean is that, by no means can you rush through any aspect of the study of Kemet, its language, its culture. You're going to have to put in time and proper research methods, execute proper research methods to have any meaningful, probative, mature, and progressive conversation when it comes to ancient Egypt, Kemet, its language, and its culture. Okay? Now, having said that, a lot of us in our communities, in our circles, we don't do that. And it could be for various reasons. A lot of people don't have the time or the amount of time that it would take to do what I was saying. And that's understandable. People have jobs and we work and things. People may not be able to dedicate it, even if they wanted to. And so we understand that. But you have people out there that also don't do that. But we'll have these conversations about Kemet and even argue and even debate about it, not having gone through all those different processes where where you're not microwaving Kemet. All right. And so as a result, we have a lot of just misinformation out there, a lot of arguments, a lot of people fussing, going back and forth, making mistakes, making errors, and advocating assumptions and mischaracterizations of the literature, the culture, the worldview, the whole nine is out there. And so it's a lot of muddy water out there. And so there are people who take it serious, and it makes it hard to come, and then, you're put in the position to always clean up instead of starting off fresh and walking together in, probing and investigating, this now dead culture, dead language and dead culture. So that's what we're emphasizing, the un-microwavableness of Kemet. All right. And people need to slow down the conversation, slow it way down. Now, what makes that also harder is because Kemet is so popular. Everybody talks about Kemet. Kemet has been commercialized in movies, in merchandise. People take trips, over there in the Arab Republic of Egypt today, take tours in museums and things like that. And then even in the so-called conscious community, in these different circles on social media, Kemet is an ongoing hot topic, so that's the commercialization of Kemet. Then you have the romanticization. People romanticize Kemet a lot. They make it this utopia, this perfect, rosy, peachy, kumbaya world, and then exaggerate things as well. So we're hit with both sides on top of everything I just said. So it's a lot. It's a whole lot that we have to deal with. And so that's what we're saying. That's what we're advocating. People have to slow the conversations down. All right. So again, welcome to y'all who just jumped on. This is definitely a late discussion. And, we're appreciative of anybody who tunes in this late, right in the middle of the weekday. On a weekday, right in the middle of the week. All right, so we can kind of get into that topic some more, but before any of you all have anything to open up with. And by the way, I'm gonna post a link. I want to show a few things, but I'm gonna post a link. How we've been doing lately. Post a link. People can come on the panel and be a part of the conversation. Because we started so late, we don't want to go too long. So we want to keep everything, kind of short and concise. But Emiket and Sean, y'all have anything?
Nah, not really. Not on my part. We could just get started.
Yeah, I just keep it short. I just think that people that's listening in, man, just don't listen in to the show or get distracted by certain comments in the chat. Kind of get you something that you can write down some of the points that are being made or references that are being given out, so that you can go back and review that work and kind of deal with it extensively. So I think there's we try to provide a good learning experience, so let's keep that going.
Yeah, this is the only channel that literally slows down the conversation when it comes to Kemet, like literally. So I think that's a good thing, because in the other channels, I don't even think most of the people there don't understand much. Like, the conversation can get a little funny. Like sometimes you can say like you can't microwave this, and somebody will be like, oh, so do you mean like you're the only people who can do it? Like, people just twist stuff and don't really get it. But I think we have a good group of people that on this side of the border that kind of understands.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because sometimes people may mischaracterize what we do, and they will try to make us out to be like the Kemet police, like nothing is true unless we say so, as far as the Seshu. And that's not the case at all. We've been online for a few years now, and we've been inviting people to learn with us. We're doing Freestyle Fridays. We've been doing Divine Words Wednesdays. We've been showing and teaching the transliteration method for free every Friday, having fun with it. We offer a formal class that you can come and register and attend to get some formal training in this and everything. So it's people who tend to do that and mischaracterize. Those are people who don't want to put any work in, and that's exactly what is happening when I say, people who are trying to microwave Kemet. The people who do that are people who are being lazy for whatever the reason is. They're being lazy. They're not putting the work in. And I'm just, emphasizing that Kemet is not one of these topics that you can microwave. You can't do it. And by trying to do it, it's messing everything up. People want to venerate our elder scholars, such as Diop, Dr. Ben, Jacob Carruthers, and so on and so forth, but not knowing that how things are being carried on now on the topic of Kemet, they're actually going backwards, because we're supposed to advance and move forward, but people are being more and more lazy and just repeating, parroting, not doing any studies, not combining disciplines, cross-pollinating different disciplines to advance the study, to build on the study, to expand the study, to move forward, and so this is what we're pushing. All right, but so, okay.
No, I was just saying, since we're talking about Kemet is un-microwavable, I would just like to read, those two quotes from the Dr. Theophilo Ben, if you let me.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very good and very relevant. So I'll just go ahead and read it. It says, hieroglyphic writing is the key to Egyptian civilization. It makes possible the knowledge and understanding from within of one of the African continent's greatest civilization in antiquity. And then he goes on to say, Egyptian language must be learned technically because this language is the key to understanding Kemet from an intrinsic paradigm. Positive discussions about Kemet is no longer sufficient if our aim is to advance the discipline with sound scholarship. In order for us to have a deep and exciting dialogue with Kemet, it is necessary for us to master the Egyptian language. This requirement is imperative, for without it, we have no beginning.
Right. He laid it down. Exactly. So, having said that, what I want to show as our example for tonight, we want to, always show something for our discussions, is earlier today on the Dagger Squad channel, our good brother Garfield's channel, Garfield had read a post by a colleague, Brother Sarimotep, who posted a post basically comparing, dealing with the Nation of Islam and Egypt. And it was about, mystery God, how Nation of Islam say they don't believe in a mystery God, and then how Egypt has a mystery God. And that was the point of his post. And so Garfield read that, to revisit that. But then a brother called in and brought my name up and was implying that the quote or that post was contradicting some things that I may have said recently, and I called into the show late and Garfield was wrapping up, so I didn't have a chance to really elaborate or anything like that. I just don't want to leave. My intention was to clarify for the listeners and the brother that the post had nothing to do with contradicting anything I've ever said. So unfortunately, the time was short, couldn't do it. So I want to kind of revisit that for now, under the guise of the fact that Kemet is un-microwavable. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the video where he says it's not very long, so you all bear with us. I'm going to play the video, and we're just gonna listen to what was said, and then I'll take this opportunity to clarify. So clarify to our listeners and on this archive, and also I'm gonna post a link so you all can come into the chat, come into the panel. All right. So let me play this, and so you all listen up, and I know you all can see it. So we're just gonna play it. I'm just gonna play it.
Oh man, why is it I can't make this smaller? Oh, let me make this smaller here. Hold on. 1, 2. All right, here we go. Close that. There are some folks in the conscious community who say that they don't believe in a mystery God. Well, the ancient Egyptians believed in a mystery God. And this is a prime example of the difference between African conceptualizations of God versus that of the NOI. Thus, these are not two branches of the same tree. Yeah, I guess he's referring to Wesley Muhammad and them. But this is the hymn to Amun-Ra, chapter 200. Unique is Amun, who keeps himself concealed from them, who hides himself from the gods. No one knowing his nature, he is more distant than the sky. He is deeper than the duat. None of the gods knows his true form. His image is not revealed in the writings. No one has complete testimony concerning him. He's too mysterious for his prestigious majesty to be discovered. He's too great to be questioned, too powerful to be known. One would drop dead instantly from fright on calling out his secret name, knowingly or unknowingly. There is no God able to invoke him by it, his name, hidden by him in his name. So mysterious is he. Wow. So we was talking, what was he talking about the other day? What was he talking about the other day, Haskell?
You mean the conversation with Wu Zhao?
Yeah, what was he talking
when me, him, and Ankh was on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's basically, I don't know if deny is the right word, but he was kind of, anytime anybody would make kind of I guess, accusation that the Egyptians believed in things that were extra natural or supernatural, he would always posit that there's like an explanation for it that's rooted in logic. And what you just read there by Asar is in complete contravention to that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what we were talking about. Is the thing about the Egyptians? I don't like the word spooky, but believing in something outside of the five senses, because Wu Zhao, he's very much into the Richard Dawkins type of mindset where their ethos is that everything comes back to your five senses. Everything. So Asar is definitely seemingly diametrically opposed to that. So
Okay, so you all have heard what was said. So I want to kind of unpack that and clarify for everyone listening now. Okay, so now let's start with the Egyptians believing in the supernatural when he said supernatural. Well, let me ask anybody on the panel want to say something about that, the supernatural statement. Well, let me ask the chat. How many people in the chat believe that the Egyptians believed in the supernatural? I'm just curious. Just say yes if you believe yes, no if you don't. Again, the question is, do you believe that the Egyptians believed in the supernatural? I'm just curious now. I just want to, take a quick little survey before I elaborate on that. And again, I know there's a little time delay here. Okay, 93. Avaris says, yeah, Kemet believe in the supernatural. Trickia says no. Avaris says yes. Mika says Asar did mention he don't agree with everything the squad says. You mean other members? Yeah, other members. Yeah. Kevin Hurd says no. Black Lion says no. CK the Poet said it wouldn't shock me. Chavis says no. No. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of no's.
Okay, so we get mostly no's, but we get a couple of yes. So we got 365 Insight says yes, and 93 Avara says yes. Okay, so that's good. I appreciate y'all that. And you know, I may ask y'all a couple of questions like that. So, you know, yeah, glad you all are participating in my little polls. Okay, so here's the thing. To the Egyptians and many African communities on the continent, there is no supernatural. And the reason why is because their view of God, quote unquote, is that God is existence itself. And so there's nothing outside of it. And we have to just understand the fundamental meaning of supernatural is to be above or outside of nature. And so they didn't have a concept of anything outside of that, outside of nature. Everything was, nature was existence itself, or God is existence itself. So there was no such thing. And we know this because even in their cosmological text, they tell you this. All we will have to do is just read it. And so anyone who has read it would say no. All right, because of how they unfold, how things come into existence. All right, there's nothing outside of that. And just a point of a breadcrumb for you all to look into. Just do some investigation on the deity Nu or Nun, and just ask yourself, in the Egyptian conceptualization of the world, the universe, existence, just ask yourself, is there anything outside of Nu or Nun in their conceptualization? So I want you all to investigate that. All right? Just ask yourself that question while you're looking into it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So the answer is no. All right? God, to the Egyptians, is existence itself. All right? And in their creation story, they tell you that existence needs existence in order to exist. That sounds a little crazy. I mean, not crazy, but it sounds a little weird to us because it sounds like mumbo jumbo. Existence needs existence to exist. But when you read it in full, I'm only giving you that one little clip of that. But if you read it in full, it makes perfect sense on how everything unfolds. Okay, so again, the answer is no. So for all you all who said no, that you all are correct. Those of you who said yes, I implore you to look into the deity Nu or Nun and ask yourself, is anything beyond or outside of Nu or Nun? All right, and read the different texts. All right, so having said that, let me switch on back here. So that's that point I wanted to address. All right. So when the brother said that Wujau, when somebody says something about Egyptian believing in the supernatural and Wujau makes it seem like they don't, that's indeed an actual fact. All right. So it's not to say that the Egyptians, that I'm trying to say that to diminish any superstition or beliefs that the Egyptian had. It's just a fact. And it's not just the Egyptians. It's many different African communities on the continent, cultures on the continent that have that same conceptualization. And here's the difference. In the Abrahamic tradition, God is outside. See, God in the Abrahamic tradition, in their conceptualization, God is supernatural. And so what we tend to do when we have these discussions is that we tend to talk about these things, especially with the Egyptian culture. We tend to talk about it through the Abrahamic lens, even though we don't subscribe to one of its belief systems. Like, you may not be a Christian, you may not be a Jew, and you may not be a Muslim, but even when you discuss other cultures outside of that paradigm, we tend to use that paradigm as our lens. Now, this is a human thing. This is a psychological thing that humans do. So it's not to say that, people are purposely doing it, but this is the frailty of our psychology. This is what we do. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to be careful with that. All right. We can't, overlay or retrofit our lens, our paradigms on these ancient people. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. God in the Abrahamic tradition is outside of creation. God hovered over some water, created all this stuff, and then he went somewhere else. In Egypt, it's not like that. In Egypt, this infinite and eternal substance differentiated of itself to become the things in the world and the world itself. Remember that. I'm going to say it again. This infinite and eternal substance, for lack of a better word, differentiated itself because it was undifferentiated. It just started to differentiate itself to become the things in the world and the world itself. Okay, and we can have another show where we can go into the text and we could translate it line by line, word by word for you. And we've done it before a little bit, but we could do it again. To bring that back up and have a good discussion about that, so people could really get it and see what's going on. All right, so that's that.
Yeah, that pretty much explains it. And I think some people sometimes forget to actually, because we have a tendency of trying to impose our ideas and ideologies without even thinking that, why don't I research on what these people, how they explain their world? Because it's there, like you explained it. Like if you read the text, it pretty much explains that, and it's not something that once you understand it, then you can't say anything else other than how the Egyptians viewed their world. It's pretty clear.
Exactly, and that's the conceptualization that they operate off of, and we tend to forget that. So we have to just remember that God and creation are one and the same. God and existence, one and the same. Existence needs existence in order to exist. And once you really understand that, and we're going to go over this in a future show, because there's some consequences to that understanding. And I don't want to go into it at this late time now, but we're going to have a future show to go into that more. So just remember what I'm saying to you all now, and hopefully you all are taking notes of these key things just to look into. All right. So that was that. And then overall, the brother was saying that Asar's post is like a contradicted some things that I have been saying, and it really doesn't. So I just want to kind of go into that a little bit more as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up Asar's post, what he posted, which was the hymn to Amun-Ra. All right. So we're going to pull that up. And let me get it on there. Okay, so this is what Asar posted. And this is the hymn to Amun-Ra, which is the primary for this is the leading papyrus, and it's chapter 200. All right. So you can find the primary in the leading papyrus. I forget where it's held, and I want to say the British Museum, but if you look it up, I'm sure it's easy to find that out. All right, but it's the hymn to Amun-Ra. Now there's several hymns. Okay, there's several hymns. So if you were to look this up and you were to type in, hymn to Amun-Ra, or whatever the case is, you're gonna get a few. So this specific one is from the leading papyrus, and it's chapter 200. All right, so. And it doesn't show you the glyphs on here or anything like that, but we have them, and I'm gonna show them in a minute. But this is a transliteration and then the translation on here. So this is what Asar posted. But let's walk through this a little bit. Not go too deep or anything, But let's just walk through it a little bit. Let me get my cursor on over here. All right, so and Garfield read it. So it says unique is Amun, who keeps himself concealed from them, who hides himself from the gods. All right. Now let me ask. Okay, I'm gonna do a little poll again. I want to ask everyone in the chat, what is the meaning of the name or the word Amen? What is the meaning of the word Amen? Okay, that question is for everybody in the chat. What is the meaning of the name or word Amen? And again, I know there's a delay, and I'm posting the link for everybody to come in who wants to come in. Post it in here twice, back to back. And I see we have a couple of people that joined in so far. So I'm gonna open the mic up, open the floor. So if you be patient for a little bit, or actually, anybody who joined in, you can answer the question as well.
Hidden.
Okay. Well, when you first speak, you guys tell us your name, where you're hailing from, so everybody know.
Oh, my bad. It's Travis coming out of H-Town. I'm talking about.
Okay. So what'd you say it was?
I said hidden, concealed.
Okay. So Travis says hidden, concealed. Kevin in the chat, hidden. Will says the hidden one. Soul L, hidden, unseen. Omar, the hidden one. Fitzroy said he don't know. Or he's saying that's what it means. It means don't know. Nah. All right. Inconceivable one. Okay. Black Lion Supreme. He jazzed it up a little bit. Inconceivable one. Okay, so that's enough answers. I guess people gonna still answer. Okay, so everyone understands that. All right, so now let's read that first line again. Matter of fact, somebody else on the panel, if you don't mind, anybody who jumped on, could you read the first line? The translation. Anybody can read it? It's on
I
my
can
screen.
read it.
Okay, go for it.
This news, right? Peace to everybody. Unique is Amun, who keeps himself concealed from them, who hides himself from the gods.
All right. So that makes sense. It's elaborating on a quality of this deity, and that quality pretty much matches what the name means, right? Everybody can see that, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So now, as you read, you're going to find that all of these statements in this hymn is going to amplify that fact. Okay, so let's keep going. Somebody, you can continue reading if you want.
No one knowing his nature. He is more distant than the sky. Keep going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He is deeper than the duat. That's the under of the ancestral world. None of the gods knows his true form. His image is not revealed in the writings.
Okay, but pause that right. Wait, pause right there. So they got to underline this one. So look, it says none of the gods know his true form. So we're talking about other gods. So not even the gods know Amen's true form. And then it says his image is not revealed in the writings. And we all know what an image is. In the language, so now this is where the Seshu comes in. So Sean, Emiket, June, if you are available, let's kind of point out some words in the language that are matching up with these translations. So where it says that none of the gods know his true form, matter of fact, let me put my cursor on. Let me pull out an arrow so people can see.
But isn't his image revealed, if I'm not mistaken?
Yup, so you jumping the gun.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
No. That's good though, but we're gonna get there in a second. All right, so I want to point out a couple of words here. So we were reading this line, none of the gods know his true form. So this is this line right here.
But that'll be the bull rec Netcher. So the rec is to know, and the Netcher will be the other gods, and Nebu. all the gods, Netcher, Nebu, and then Ki, F is his image, and then Ma'a is true.
All right.
So, yeah, that's the one there.
All right. Say that one more time because you're I don't you know I was hearing something
Okay.
while you were talking, but yeah, if you could speak up, yeah.
Okay, so Bu Rek would be so you have none to know, and then Netcheru Nebu will be all the gods. Ki F will be his image. Ma'a will be true.
All right.
So yeah.
Excellent. So his true image, all the gods not know. So and that's what it says. None of the gods know his true form. All right. So key, the word key could be image, form, and things like that. All right. So and then it says his image is not revealed in the writings, which will be here, next line. So we have Nin, Seshem, Seshem F, and then we have Perchu, Her, Zashu. We say Seshu. When we speak, that's the same word. Seshu would be us, Seshu to write. All right. So we say that his image is not revealed in the writings. All right. I just want to point that out. That not even the gods know his true form, and his image is not even revealed in the writings. All right, so you can go ahead, Niwasara.
No one has complete testimony concerning him. He is too mysterious for the prestigious majesty to be discovered. He is too great to be questioned, too powerful to be known. One would drop dead instantly from fright. On calling out his secret name, knowingly or unknowingly, there is no God able to invoke him by it, which is his name, hidden by, Amun, is his name. So mysterious is he.
All right. Now, what the word is being translated as mystery and mysterious right here is this word right here, shata. And the word shata, it's appropriate to translate it as mysterious or mystery, or shatau, mysteries, but it also means obscure, something that is obscure, something that has to be probed in order to gain knowledge of. You know, you have to go through some form of epistemological process. That's what that is pertaining to. And you can't with Amen, which is why the name Amen is what it means. Now, when I asked that question, people were saying that it means hidden, unseen, and things like that, and that's true. But a better translation for that name Amen is imperceivable. Because if you look at everything that Niwa Sarav read, and Garfield read this early, when we played it. If you read everything, and this is only a portion, right? If you read the whole hymn to Amun-Ra, you'll see what I'm talking about even more. But all of these different statements is just telling you how imperceivable Amen is. He's further than the distant sky, deeper than the duat. None of the gods even know his true form. His image not even revealed in any of the writings. His prestige and his prestigious majesty is not even revealed or can't be discovered. No one has any writings about him. See, where you see testimony, no one has any conversation. There's not much to say about Amen. Why? All of these attributes, all of these statements are pointing to his actual name. The name Amen, the word Amen, it means imperceivable. Okay, so I wanted everybody to understand that. Now, I guess where we're getting to. So so what does this mean? Because we could read that, and like I said, we could walk through as Emicat did. We could break down every single word over here. We could break it down the grammar and the whole nine. But now, what is that saying? Now, this is only a small little portion of this one hymn, and Amen is everywhere around in Egypt. So it's he's mentioned from the pyramid text all the way to the Ptolemaic period, and everything. And that's the kind of work you have to put into to really, really grasp what is the reality behind this character and deity and Netcher and word Amen. And so one thing we can say, or to prove that it takes hard work to really figure these things out, is that we just read that his image is not in the writings. But if he is unseen, because some of y'all say he's hidden, and some of y'all said that he is unseen, and I'm telling you he's imperceivable, or that's what the word means, then what do we have right here? Who is this? I guess I got to put another arrow here. Who is this? Does anybody know who that is?
The imperceivable one.
Wait, who said that?
I think Fortune.
Yeah, this Fortune. What's up, y'all?
Hey, what's going on, Hotep? Oh, I didn't hear your answer. What were you saying? Who was that?
No, I was joking. I said that's Uncle Keck.
Oh. All right. Hey, that would be funny though. But no. So who is it? Anybody answer?
It's the imperceivable one that you just said.
Okay, let's see if we could. So it's Amen, right?
Correct.
But
So now, didn't we read earlier that his image is not in any of the writings?
Correct.
Sure did.
But we see him carved, his image actually carved, and we call him he has a shindid, he has a bull tail like the rest of the pharaoh kings wear. He has a crown, a double plume crown with multicolors. In this case, is white though. He's reddish brown, just like the other kings. He has a collar on. He has arm bands, bracelets, ankle bands, bracelets. The whole nine.
Yeah, he's right there chilling. Food, looking fly, all that stuff.
He's being offered food. He's sitting in a chair we know as a throne. He's enthroned. He's sitting there, right? But he's supposed to be hidden. And I'm only bringing this up so that y'all could just see just the common sense logic that there must be something else going on than a literal interpretation of what we just read. Okay, and I could do this for days. I could do this for many different things for days. I'm only want to show this one for tonight. And it speaks to my overall title of this show is that Kemet is un-microwavable. You're not gonna not know the language, not know anything about the language, not know anything about the grammar, the writing system, not know anything about other disciplines that will provide you, the tools to do this kind of thing. You're not going to just forsake all that stuff and ignore that stuff and microwave Egypt. You're not going to just read a text in English and walk away and say, hey, I got it. I figured it out. Because when you do that, you're basically spitting in the eyes of the ancient Egyptians and the culture, because you're not giving it its just due. You're not giving it its respect that it's due. Because in the very least, you should take the time out and to research these things to figure out what was actually meant behind the figurative expressions. And this is something I've been saying for the past few days, really for years, but lately on these live conversations, is that these different texts and things are heavily laden with figurative expression, because that was the norm, that was the mode of communication for the day, that was the mode of recordation. To record things, to document things was done in that fashion. And therefore we have to understand. And I did a Facebook post today where I outlined that. I said that, and I'm just going to read it. I said, in order to engage in a mature, serious, progressive, meaningful, engaging, and probative discussion about Kemet's culture as exposed through extant literature and artifacts, one has to seek some competency in at least, and not limited to, the following areas. And I listed them. Ancient Egyptian language, which means you got to become familiar with the writing system, the grammar. You have to be familiar with ancient Egyptian literature, which means you have to read a lot of the literature, especially now that you know, if you know the language or you could read the language. Also, you have to study semantics. You have to understand semantics, okay? The linguistic field of semantics. You got to understand pragmatics. You got to understand semiotics. You have to understand rhetoric. Now, I know today we kind of use that word rhetoric we kind of misuse that word, really. But rhetoric, you have to understand that. You have to understand stylistics. You have to understand figurative language, figurative expressions. You have to understand a little bit about historical comparative linguistics. And then, the list goes on. Inductive and deductive reasoning in your research methods. So you gotta have a little bit of all these things that I mentioned and more in order to really, really engage Kemet as you should, or as we all should. Okay? We have to step up our game. We're gonna have to do that. All right. So I just wanted to show this example, but let me move on to another picture. So let's look on this side, but let me see something. Let's make sure this is Amun, because I could be lying, right? How will we go about finding out who this actually is? Somebody on the panel tell me.
The glyphs I would have to read.
Okay, so I'm gonna see if I could expand this, and hopefully it's still clear. All right, let's see if we can identify his name anywhere. So anybody that joined the panel, Niwasara, or who else is here? Chavis, we're gonna hold you responsible too. So can you identify his name? Do you see anything that you feel, any glyphs that you may feel that spell out the name Amun? Now I know I can't ask anybody in the chat, really. It's gonna hard for you all to point it out. No?
I'm looking. It's hard to make out. I definitely can make out some of them, but what I'm looking for right now is a shin, because a lot of times it's in a shin or a shanu. Not all the time, but that's the first thing I look for personally, and I don't see it. And I'm making out different things, but
the shed, let me help. If a quick tip, if you on the Shanu, you probably have the king's names, but not the Jews.
Yeah, okay. So just kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was stupid. My bad.
Nah, remember how you have, two different formulas, right? You have one that says one thing and then one that says another. I can't give you no hints.
Mm-hmm. Sean, you don't know either, man.
So I guess the first thing I would look for is a monoliteral that's an A, and then I would look for a M, and I know what an N looks like, so I would look for those things. And
okay, let me
hold on. What name are you looking for again? Think about what he asked.
I think we should be looking for a feather, those little feather looking things.
There you go. All right, Chavis is on to something. Chavis is on to something.
Yeah, that IMN. So it would be that, and then one of those, that red thing with the dots above it. I don't know what that's called, but that's the M, and then possibly a water ripple after that. So
you're seeing it right now?
No, I just know that it would be exactly what whoever, I guess it was Chavis with the feather for the eye.
Right. So I'm saying, do you see that? I'm asking you, do you see it in the picture?
See a bunch of them, it seemed like, but.
Okay, another tip. It will probably be closer to the figure itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta exclude
now.
Well, you're getting close.
I just want to say, remember I magnified it and slid it down. So Amun is right there. Amun-Ra's right there, who you all say is Amun-Ra or Amen.
Mhm.
And now I'm sliding it down to see the glyphs above, and I want you all to point it out.
Come on, Chavis.
When y'all gonna get it? Cause it's right there.
Smacking y'all in the face.
Right.
Yeah,
Guess-
Like
Chavis
right
already
above
got
his
it.
head.
He
It
just
keep on
needs-
switching. I think it's red.
Yeah,
though.
it keeps switching. Yeah.
Red box. Like a red box. The first, I think it's the second to the starting from the right.
Right there where
Right there.
where I got it.
Okay.
Keep on screen, keep on switching.
Oh, screen. Yeah.
Oh.
If my
Yeah.
screen if my
Click
screen
on
is
Wujawu. Go to participants.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
gotta
go
double
to
click.
switch gallery view and then click on Saber Wujawu's name.
And
Yeah,
then
what-
click.
See.
Actually, yeah, if you see it on the top, you'll see the 3 dots. If you click on that, then you can pin the video or pin Wujao's right above his name.
But we are here Wednesday after midnight, and we're doing some translation. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. So okay. So what? So is it? I'm asking because I put the arrow there. Is that what you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I know that
Okay, so that's correct because I don't want to
it take too long.
yeah take too long. You know. So no, that's good. That's excellent, and that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So it was a raw. You and Chavis, you understood that you're looking for a reed leaf, a game board glyph as people call it, and then a water ripple. Exactly.
Mhm.
And so this is what we have. The reed leaf is right here. Everybody can see my cursor. The min, which is a game board, people call it the Sinet game glyph, and then the water ripple is under it. And I know it's faint because the picture is not. Plus the wall is damaged. Picture is not very big quality. But then you also have Ra here as well. So this is Amun-Ra, and we have Neb Nesut Tawi. So it's Amun-Ra, the Lord of the thrones of the 2 lands. Okay, so he's the master, owner, possessor of all the thrones of both lands. Tawi, 2 lands. Okay, so just to let you all know what's in that thing. So that's how we know who this is. All right. So I just want to point out that we have an image of Amen, writings of Amen, and the whole thing, but we just read a hymn where that was not the case or should not be the case. And so I'm pointing this out because you can't microwave Kemet, period. It's un-microwavable. A lot of these things have realities behind what you're actually reading literally. And it goes back to us just taking time out. Listen, 2020 should be the year that anybody who wants to talk about Kemet, and really it's not just for Kemet. Now we're talking about Kemet on our channel, and this is what we focus on. This is what we study. But this applies to everything. This applies to the Bible. This applies to West African cultures that people talk about as well. You have to take time out to study semantics, pragmatics, and figurative expressions. Why? Is because that is a inherent form of communication that has been with humans for a very, very long time. We have to understand that writing is only 5,000 years old, roughly. I'm rounding off. Writing is only roughly 5,000 years old. And you have to transmit information from generation to generation, decade after decade, century after century, millennium after millennium. Thousands and thousands of years you have to transmit information so that the future generations don't have to start from scratch where you left off. And so they have to invent ways to store information. And we have to understand we don't conceive it that way, because if I tell you to record something, record some information, you're going to write it down. Writing is to record. You know, but 5,000 years ago we weren't doing that. Also, it creates a permanency. Writing, it's etched in stone. So imagine everything you say is fleeting. You're not going to hear it anymore. There's no sound, audio recording devices, and there's no writing. So you're not going to see it, and you're not going to hear it. Unless you repeat it, of course. But I'm saying, so we live in a whole totally different paradigm now. And so figurative expression is something people are going to have to get up on and step their game up for 2020. Whenever you talk about Kemet, you're going to have that tool set. You're going to have to know how that works. How many of y'all know what a trope is? TROPE, trope.
I know it's a literary device. I don't know exactly what it entails and like.
Okay, but that's good. That's good that you know that it's a literary device, though. There's a lot of people who never heard of it, who don't even don't know it's a literary device. It's actually it's a category of literary devices. It's a
It's like a metaphor. It's like a metaphorical or like a figurative form of like a use of a word. Actually, I looked it up. You've been bringing it up for a while, so I looked it up a while ago.
Okay, right. There's a lot of them. There's a whole lot. There's like probably I would estimate around
It's
100.
a whole list on the internet. It says complete list of literary devices. It goes from A to Z, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. See, people need to look into that because believe it or not, even though we don't know the names of all these different literary devices, we use them in our everyday speech. We use some of them in our everyday speech. When people say, "Oh man, I'm lit," that's a metaphor. I'm lit. Oh, those shoes are hot. That hat is hot. Where you get that from? How much you pay for it? That's hot. Or people in Chicago say, "Oh, those are cold. Those shoes are cold." Oh, he was cold with it. Those are metaphors. And then music. I mean, poetry, music, R&B, rap, whatever, uses allegories, similes, hyperboles, metaphors, you name it. We use them every day. But we play with it today when in ancient times it was absolutely necessary for them to do it. And we have to remember that. And what happens is, now here's the challenge. Here's the big challenge. When it comes to those things, figurative speech, figurative language, it's cultural dependent. It's cultural dependent. Like for example, there's certain metaphors that people in London, in the UK, even though they speak English like we do, or we speak English like they do, they have a different vernacular, different set of metaphors that they understand because of where they are in their culture. Even though we know what the words are saying, what they're saying, we don't know the meaning behind it. We don't know the reality behind it, and vice versa. So remember, figurative language is culturally dependent. That's what makes it very hard or challenging for us, because you have to lay down your cultural lens and your biases and your coercion and all that kind of stuff. You have to lay it down and try to be objective as possible and follow the evidence and allow the culture to speak for itself. Allow the ancestors to speak for themselves. And that's what we do when it comes to Kemet, because Kemet was a literate nation, kingdom. Unlike some oral tradition cultures that we don't have literature for. We have to rely on oral transmission. Okay, so that's the big thing. And that's where the challenge comes in. So we can't be wasting time not knowing that and then just want to microwave this stuff. Talk about Egypt. Oh yeah, they believed in a monster called Amun-Ra, who was the devourer of the dead and stuff. They literally believe that. Like, how do you know they literally believe that? People don't know, but they have so much to say. So anyway, so that's that one. Let me show another picture. I didn't deal with the picture on the right. So let's do the same thing with the picture on the right. We'll move this one over here out the way. Let's get this one in here. So we see this figure standing up right here, right? Okay. And I'm just going to point just for time's sake. Let me point out. You see his name right here. Amun-Ra. Same thing. Amun-Ra Neb-Nesut-Tawi. Okay. It's a little bit cut off at the top. Yeah, that's the top. But I'm pointing to this blue arrow is pointing to his name, Amun-Ra Neb Nesut Tawi. Amun-Ra, the Lord of the thrones of the two lands. Amun-Ra is right here again. All right? We're seeing him. They drew him. All right, so that's that picture. Let's go with another one. Who's that? Y'all should know by now.
Amen.
It's Amen again. Amun-Ra again. He's on the throne. All right, I got one better for y'all. Who is this behind him? Haha. See, I got y'all this time. Who's behind him?
I don't want to cheat.
See a vulture. So I'm thinking moot.
Man, Chavis, you on fire. See, Chavis, you on fire. Now, Chavis, are you literally on fire? Or did I just say something figurative?
Literally. No, I might be literally, but I'm not gonna get into that. But
No, you're not literally on fire either.
Whoa.
You
Whoa, partner.
call 911. But no. And remember,
Right.
if you ever literally on fire, y'all remember that thing they taught us: stop, drop, and roll. So if you're ever literally on fire, make sure y'all
That's
remember
what you need to do.
to
Right.
stop, drop, and roll.
He said you already rolled.
All right. So here we go.
Yo, Ujaru.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought something you just said was kind of interesting because I was one of them people that disagreed with you. But you just said that people shouldn't take things literal and stuff like that. But you also said you have to look at a culture through its own lens, through its own perspective.
Yes.
You don't see any possibility for a contradiction. If you're looking at something objectively, then you got to look at a culture through its own lens. If you make a statement like Kemet is supernatural, they believe in supernatural, but then you just subjected us through the cultural lens of the Egyptians by saying, oh, they're not supernatural because in their worldview, everything is in nature.
Yeah, no, that's not.
You don't see the possibility for somebody to say, well, you're subjecting us to the Egyptians' definition of supernatural when supernatural is, it's just a definition in itself.
Okay, that's a good question. But no, it's not a contradiction. By being objective is meant that you wanna probe and investigate something with an empty cup, and you want to allow the evidence to dictate and shape your conclusions, to shape where you go. And so that's what I mean by being objective. So if we're gonna investigate the God concept among different cultures around the world, we gotta allow that particular culture to tell us how they conceptualize God. I can't be a Christian and then assume that the Egyptians believe in God the same way I do. If I'm a Christian, you know what I'm saying? So I have to strip my lens and what I believe. I have to strip it down and erase it. I got to put it in the closet, and I got to step to the Egyptians with an empty cup and allow the Egyptians to tell me how they believe in God.
Right, but that's how they believe, and that's not an objective. Like, if I was to say America is racist, but you go to America during this heyday and they tell you, no, we ain't racist, we being fair, we controlling things the way we see forth. They telling their story, they saying they're not racist. But we know objectively what racism is, and we able to judge them without them having to subject us to their opinion, So I'm saying I believe that the Egyptians were supernatural, not discounting what they say about themselves, but based on what is considered supernatural, and that's not a bad thing. It's just how I see it,
But I understand that, but I'm gonna tell you what you're doing. You're doing exactly what we shouldn't do, because remember, supernatural. Okay, if we're gonna take the denotative meaning of supernatural, what does the word supernatural mean? It means above nature. Super and
Right.
then natural, above nature. The Egyptians did not conceive of anything above nature, and so, like, for example, let me ask you. That's why I don't. Maybe you came on here like you popped in a little bit after I said this. If you what is based on your understanding right now, what is above or beyond Nu or Nun?
Above and beyond noon. But see now you I'm in the Egyptian paradigm right now because noon that's Kemet.
No, I know, but hold up, now watch what I did. When I asked you that question, in order for you to answer me, you would therefore have to understand what Nu is.
Yeah, I kind of got an understanding of what new is. I'm not gonna claim to be an expert, but I know a little bit hanging around y'all, okay, of course. But you just put me in a box by even bringing up new. You should have asked me what I consider is supernatural.
Okay, so yeah, give me an example of something that is supernatural, like a objective.
Something that is really above nature, but it also involves things that that there are certain like you said tropes. There's certain things like invisible forces that influence human beings. Things that are more stronger and powerful than us, but that's above nature, that can control or influence nature. And I think Kemet definitely has things like that can be considered supernatural, man. Like
okay, but wait, so let me ask you a different way then, real quick. Okay, give me something. Okay, let's forget about any cultures. It's just me and you. So I want you to give me something that you feel that is actually supernatural, based on your understanding of what supernatural is. I want you to give me something that is supernatural.
Any force starting with any force or deity that has any influence on us, regardless of the culture. That's supernatural. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying
anything outside of this planet Earth,
no, I'm saying
that is considered nature. Anything outside of that has a direct influence or power over anything that's in nature.
No, I don't think you understand. I'm asking you. Like, don't say anything. I'm saying you. Like, what? Like you. Like, be specific. Give me an actual.
Outside of me?
I'm talking about you. Like, I want you to give me an actual example of something that's outside of nature.
Of something that's outside of nature?
Yeah.
Anything? I would say anything that's
or outside of natural.
I'm saying deity.
Oh, so you believe
that would be what a human being would say.
No, but I'm saying, but wait. That's why I want to erase everybody. It's just me and you, nobody else. You don't speak for a culture or nothing. I'm saying you.
I'm not speaking for a culture. All human beings, most human beings create deities, right? You don't have to have a specific culture. That's an inherent trait of humanity. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but okay. So all right.
I'm wrong to say majority of humans create deities. It don't have to be a specific culture. That's a trait of human beings.
Yes.
To
okay.
recognize the supernatural, and they all attribute it to some kind of deity or some kind of supernatural power. Am I lying?
No.
Are those things
wait, hold on, wait.
No.
Hold up, y'all. Wait, I want everybody to mute. I want everybody to mute, please. Cause then it's gonna long this thing out. So half of what you said is correct. It is innate in the human nature to deify things, but the other part about supernatural is what we're getting at. But I'm asking you. So do you believe in a deity?
Do I? No. I'm agnostic to any deities.
Okay, so that's I want you to understand what I'm asking you. That's what I mean. I want you, like from you, not nobody else. I'm asking you. That's why I said it's me and you having this conversation. So that's why I want you to give me something that's supernatural. But if you don't believe, do you believe in the supernatural?
No, I told you I'm agnostic. I'm not sure. I can't. There's things that's out of my control, but a lot of that stuff is in nature.
Okay, so right now you can't you say you don't know, and rightfully that's fair. So you can't give me an example of something supernatural coming from your understanding, right?
No, because I would try to. If you're talking about me, see, I would try to rationalize it instead of being spooky about it. But I'm not trying to speak from my perspective. I'm just trying to speak about the statement you made earlier.
Yeah, but that's why right. That's why I was asking you from your perspective for you to give me something that's supernatural. And you said
I have not met anything other than things I can't control in nature, me personally. But we're talking about the Egyptians.
I know. So now, okay, right, we are. But so we went from talking about the Egyptians to me asking you from your perspective. Now let's get back to Egyptians. So why can't the Egyptians be like you?
Well, yeah, a good point is the Egyptians were surrounded by people who were supernatural. So why could they not be supernatural? For instance, you know for a fact that the Egyptians, they synchronized some of their deities with Canaanite deities and so forth. And these are people, those people most certainly believe in the supernatural. Why do they have to stand out from everybody that's around them when you have other influential cultures at the time who are blatantly supernatural? Yeah, I think they definitely had supernatural elements to their culture.
Okay, so now see, this conversation is speaking exactly to my points though, is because okay, when I asked you from your perspective, you are agnostic because you said you're not sure, and you said that even if you do, hold up, wait, you said even
Sorry
if
to cut you off, but can you answer that question yourself too? Do you believe in the supernatural? And I mean,
no,
deities.
no,
Okay, great.
no.
All right.
See, I say no, straight up and down, no.
Okay, because I thought you was gonna try to use that against me, which I was about to say no.
No.
Use
Listen,
that
man.
statement for yourself, too.
No, listen. This not a hostile. I'm not being hostile. So, because I'm trying to let's get somewhere. So what I'm saying is that from your perspective, you're not sure. So that's you take the agnostic stance, and that's fair.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I take the agnostic stance because I'm not gonna presume that I know things that I don't know. Look, nature itself, that's one step above me. So outside of nature, I don't even know. You know,
Okay,
I'm not sure.
Okay, so now
Yeah, I
here's
could be
my
proven
question.
wrong.
Okay, so here's my question and that's good. But here's my question. Why can't the Egyptians be like you? And like when you said that that even when you try to think about stuff like that, you rationalize it. You know, because you don't want to spookify, so you rationalize it. Why can't the Egyptians have done the same thing?
Why can't the Egyptians done the same thing? Come on, man. You know I got a reverence for Egypt, but I call it like I see it. Like, because they do things that are, when we look at cultures that are supernatural, you see things in Kemet that have the equivalent, like exploration text, stuff like that. That's
Okay.
that's no natural part to that kind of stuff like that.
Okay, so
You
Ben,
know,
so
he
wait a
answered,
second, please, for a second. 1 second, please.
Go ahead.
So here we are. We have arrived. So fortunate. Our conversation just now is the exact point that I'm making, is because, and I understand it because I'm not, like I said, it's not like a hostile thing, but this is what a lot of people will do by default. We project our ideas on Egypt, and I'm saying that a lot of Egyptian text and stuff is written figuratively, and so what we are challenged to do is to discover the realities behind it, and we can't assume that it's literal. Like you just said that you revere the Egyptians, but you see certain things and this, that, and other. How do you know that that's what is going on if it's figurative? Because if I write down on a piece of paper I got butterflies on my stomach, I just told you I got butterflies in my stomach, but 9 times out of 10, you would not take me literally. And the reason why is because you're part of this culture and you know that that's a metaphor. But if you read it on paper, I told you right out of my mouth or my own writing that I have butterflies in my stomach. But you wouldn't call me crazy or spooky because you know what I really mean by that.
No, I understand that, but the one example I brought forth was exploration text. That's not just somebody talking. That's like physical. That's like physical. That's like warfare. That's like people believing that you can impact somebody by doing a certain thing.
No, I know, but I'm saying, one, I don't know if you've taken classes now and you can read the text, but if you can't even read the text to even read the text itself.
I can't read the text, but what I will say is, if y'all correcting all these scholars that came before y'all, are you saying that they're completely wrong or they're slightly off? Because they can't be completely wrong. They gotta at least get like 20, 30% of the translation somewhat correct, right?
No. Like again, if I write in English, I Wujau have butterflies in my stomach. You can accurately translate that to make it say that. But then there's another layer. You have to understand what I mean by that now. And that's the difference. That's the challenge. So these translators and scholars, yes, they translate text, but now the challenge, and every scholar who is who studies rhetoric and who studies figurative language, this is an ongoing project among scholars. This is a whole field of semantics and pragmatics that scholars are doing with Egyptian texts and other classical writings. But this is what they do. Right. So it's ongoing. So they're trying to recover the realities behind it. So when you say they're not correct, now what most people read are the translations as it's written, just like I got butterfly in my stomach. But now you got to take a whole nother set of steps to figure out the reality of what was meant in these different texts. And that's what people don't quite get today, that there's layers to this thing that still is ongoing. And so, like, for example, we're talking about Amun. I said Amun is imperceivable. So why are they drawing him if he's imperceivable? If
they say nobody knows his true form, that means he has form, then nobody knows what he really looked like.
But it said that he's not even in the writings. I mean, and mind you, it's only a small portion because we can.
Writing?
It said he's not. Let me go back to it. So
no, I've seen that, but I'm asking you because I mean he's obviously in writings. What writing is he not? Is he supposed to be in? Is it different?
No, it said
corpus of literature.
It says his image is not revealed in the writings.
Oh right, yeah. Well, his true image, yeah, of course.
No, it just says his image is not. It don't say anything but true on that line. All right.
Okay, his image is not in the writing, but you see some images of what's supposed to be him, not his true form, but like you said, you showed him, right?
Yep, and not only his image, but
something that's supposed to represent him.
Not only his image, but we got big, huge statues of him too, that I'm showing on the screen right now. So if his name means hidden, he's not hidden, standing in front of you as a big statue. If his name means,
is that really him? Is that really, really, really him? His true form? That's the thing I always.
Okay, so here's here's the thing. This is what people gotta understand. This is why learning figurative language and expressions and how it works and how to learn. This is the importance of learning the language, is because if I, like, for example, if I say the word elephant to you, the word elephant is not the elephant itself. So language as a whole lock and barrel is an illusion, or it's not the actual items. It's a representative of the items. Like if I say elephant to you or if I write it down, what I wrote and what I said is not the actual elephant. It refers or it signifies the elephant. It's a signifier.
Are you giving reverence to them by saying they're not supernatural because you want to represent them the way they want to be represented, or you actually believe they don't have supernatural elements? Because you know what I mean when I say supernatural.
Yes, I know what you mean, and I'm saying that I share in their view that there is no such thing as supernatural.
There is no such thing. So therefore, and that applies to them, or that just applies period to the world?
Period. There is no such thing. There's no such thing out of nature.
You're going with their definition of supernatural. Aren't you imposing your ideas of what's supernatural on cultures who clearly have a distinction?
No. Just on the Egyptians tell me that they don't believe in the supernatural, and I agree with them.
Right.
I agree with them. So
I'm not. I can agree that if they said that, then they don't believe in the supernatural. But what they say doesn't mean that objectively, it ain't what it is.
No, I know. I'm saying I'm not believing.
They said that heart was the center of intelligence. Now let me say this. That was what is purported. Like you would probably tell me, if you don't know that for sure, don't make the claim. But that's what people say. The heart is the seat of intelligence, according to them. But we know objectively that's not true.
Okay, listen, you and I have been hogging the mic, so let me just say this last thing real quick because I want to give everybody a shot.
I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna let you talk.
No. Let me just say it last.
No, don't get off because I had a question. Y'all really moved too fast. There was a lot of things I didn't understand between the conversation that y'all were saying.
Okay, but let me say this last thing and then I'll fall back and we can make our rounds. So, but to the last thing you said, when the Egyptians say that the heart is the seat of intelligence, the word heart, and this is why it's important to learn language. The word heart is ib, and it doesn't mean the literal organ, blood pumping organ, the heart. It actually means the mind. So they're saying the mind is the seat of intelligence, and everybody agrees with that today.
Well, no, wait a minute, hold up. So you telling me that people didn't think that? Well, okay. So you saying it's actually not the actual heart? They calling his brain or mind the heart. That's what ib is supposed to represent.
The mind, exactly.
Okay. All right. I knew you. All right.
All right, so MK, yeah, I'm gonna pass the mic. I'm gonna fall back. We kind of hog the mic. Fortune.
Hey, but I gotta deal with you one day because I got questions and
hey,
you're
no problem.
a good person to talk to, man. You're very patient and you're very intelligent. I love learning from you.
Nah, and we ain't answering your questions no more.
No, because man, they were talking so fast, like words were just like.
No. Fortune. Anytime, man. But we got other people, so I just want to spread it out a little bit.
Oh yeah, but Fortune, did you say that you don't believe in the supernatural, or you're open to the supernatural because you're agnostic? You don't believe.
I'm agnostic. Being agnostic, you don't really take a stance. I would be open. I would be open. I can't say I believe, but I can't discount it completely because I don't know. I haven't had those experiences, but others have.
Okay, and Wujao was saying that why couldn't the Ramesh, the ancient Egyptians, be like that? But then you said that because they had other cultures around them that believed in the supernatural. But then so I wanted to ask you, so how did you end up being agnostic with other people around you believing in the supernatural?
Well, that's interesting.
Dang, on.
But look, including the Kemetic culture, I was influenced by all of it. But I tried to use science or whatever. I tried to use my own mind. I used my own experiences, and I came to that conclusion. The reason I brought that up about Kemet is, they were impressionable as well. They were influenced by other cultures that were, and during that time, what you call the Levant, Near East, whatever, all of those people had some kind of supernatural thing. So I'm saying, why couldn't they have been just like those people? That's what I was saying.
Right, and why couldn't you be the same? Go ahead.
No, that was it. I'm just saying, if they were existing at a time where believing in the supernatural was the norm, and they're surrounded by other kingdoms or whatever, because the whole Kemet thing, people don't realize there's other cultures just as big as Kemet right around them that actually beat them and influenced them. So I was saying, how couldn't they? How couldn't they? When it's
right.
the norm.
But the same question can be asked of you. How couldn't you be? Because you are not. You are agnostic. In a society where there's a lot of people who believe in the supernatural, but you're not.
Right.
So the same could also that same principle could be also afforded to the Ramesh, who could also not be like you, not be the same as other cultures around them. Also, just like you are not the same as other people around you who believe in a supernatural. So that's just a thought that you might want to give.
No, that's a great point. But we know that the Egyptians they made a decision. They made a decision. I feel like if you look, they made a point. But that's a great question. That's a great question.
That was excellent. So let's so anybody. Yeah, I want to keep kind of keep it rolling. That was good. That's good. I think the whole conversation. Hopefully, everybody in the chat is following and benefiting. Listen, I posted the link 2 more times. I'm gonna post it again right now, because it's 1:05. We started late, and we're already at the 86 minutes, and I want to keep it going for a little while, for a bit longer. So if you have something to share or questions or whatever, jump on in. And let's continue the conversation. But let's pass the mic around. But hold up. But let me just kind of reiterate the kind of points. So the title of this live is that Kemet is unmicrowavable, and I think that this conversation has demonstrated that because we have to slow the conversation down. And that's why I said, Fortune, man, listen, I'm always open if you want to have some more talks and whatnot. That's great. You know, we could do that definitely, because we really have to slow this conversation down, because when it comes to Kemet, and not just Kemet, but you know, we focus on Kemet on this channel. There's a lot of assumptions that come at the start of the conversation, and we got to really kind of be careful with that. We assume things because, you know, there's so much information or misinformation out there that we think is norm or correct, and we come to the table with these assumptions, you know, and so on. And it's only when you take time out to really learn this stuff that you could look back at these assumptions and be like, man, I was wrong about that. So let me take that away, you know, let me subtract that, you know, let me correct this and stuff. It's only through that process that we really give justice to these other cultures, be it West African cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, or Kemet. You see, and I think that that's what has to happen on all of this stuff when we talk about history, ancient history, and everything, because we run the risk of doing just that, like stuff that we shouldn't be doing. You know, we want to put our things on it. That's all I meant, you know, earlier about being objective. As a scientist, see, scientists do their best to rule out error and be objective as possible and follow the evidence. You know, science is the domain of evidence. Math is the domain of proof. And that's how they function. And that's how we should function as well. So I just want to kind of bring it back to that umbrella. And about Amun-Ra specifically, is that Amen is the name is imperceivable. People translate it as hidden or unseen, but it's not really unseen, because now you're limited to, okay, eyesight, unseen, but it's really imperceivable. It's imperceivable. And just to give y'all a tidbit of the reality behind Amen, it's the aspect of existence that has no reflection. It cannot see itself. And there is an aspect. In other words, think of this. And I'm not trying to be going off, you know, into some long explanation, but just think about this. By something being imperceivable, it means that it itself is doing the perceiving, but it can't perceive itself, because it itself is the perceiver. So the way I demonstrate this in terms of an imagery is to imagine that you are an eyeball, or just imagine an eyeball. You don't have to be the eyeball, but just imagine an eyeball. If you were an eyeball, the function of an eyeball is to see. And so where you have your pupil and all that kind of stuff, you can see everything, right? So imagine the eyeball can look, but guess what? The eyeball will never be able to see itself. Why? Because it itself is the seer. It's the looker. It is the perceiver. It is the thing that is looking. And because it is the thing that is looking, it can't look back at itself. So that aspect of itself that it can never see is called Amen. It's an aspect of existence that is imperceivable. All right, so I'm just going to lay that out there and tell y'all that is a reality behind this deity, this God, you know, that everybody knows about, Amen. And because it is imperceivable, but yet it exists, is why people later expand that meaning to mean faith. And so a lot of people will end a prayer that they want to count on with Amin, Amen-Ra in Hebrew and Arabic and the Semitic speakers, among Semitic speakers. They say, so be it. But they say it means faith. If you look at the Arabic word mu'minun, it means one who has faith, a faithful person. Mu'minati, mu'minun, those are male and female followers or faithful people. You know, mu'min is one of the attributes of Allah, one of the 99 names of Allah. And so it means faith. It means trust. And you could trust that, you know, it comes out of this concept of being the perceiver but never being perceived. And that's why it says in the hymn to Amen, which is a song, that they remind the people that not even the gods know Amen's true name. because it's an aspect of existence that can never be perceived, ever, ever. Only representations. And so if you read the whole hymn, you'll see where Amen is the creator, but as he creates, he take on the form of Atum. As he does this in the word, he takes on the form of Ptah, and this, that, and the other. Never as itself. You know what I'm saying? Because it's imperceivable. So I just wanted to lay that out for people, that this is what it takes to really start to understand the realities behind what is being spoken. If it's not some spooky deity that's out there floating in the universe, some aliens gonna come down and land on planet Earth. Amen is not that at all. Amen is the principle of something being imperceivable, the aspect of existence itself that is imperceivable, and it's always relative. All right, so that's what it is, and you got to understand that when you, and remember, Amen or none of these deities are on their own. They have connections and relationships with each other in concept and principle. So, like for example, Ra is always accompanied by Hu, Heka, and Sia in his manjet or the night barge or boat traveling through the Duat. There's a reason for that. There's a reason where certain deities show up together, and sometimes it'll swap out with a different deity and whatnot. There's a reason why Usir and Osset are husband and wife and brother and sister, why Jehudi is hooked up with Shashat and Ma'at at sometimes. Khanum is hooked up with his wife and whatnot. You got these different tribes of different gnomes or different sapats in Egypt. There's a reason for all that kind of stuff. But you got to look behind the figurative expressions to really get the reality, and that takes hard work. It takes skills and hard work to be able to do that. And one of the first steps is to learn the daggone language, to at least be able to read it, and then you got to go behind it. So anyway, I just want to reiterate that. But hey, it's open. Anybody on the panel still, or want to jump in? I'm gonna post a link a few more times, but have at it.
Hey, I just wanted to say to Fortune, like, from my understanding, I think just to bridge the gap, I think that a lot of people have a different understanding of supernatural, and some of the things that are natural, you might understand to be supernatural just because you might not fully understand them. So like, even in science, like when you deal with like particles and just think that's not supernatural. You just, you know what I mean? So when you deal with like the so-called Agdod or the Sejid, or like I think it's called the Himanu, or when you deal with the Enid or the Sejid, it's different things in there that I say, like for like moisture, when you're dealing with Shu and like Tefnut, or when you're dealing with like Ujawa just sort of touched on, like been saying Nu and Noon and He and Kuket and stuff like that, like the frogs and the snakes, and you know, if you look into that, you'll kind of understand like those are things that aren't necessarily always tangible. Some of them, so you know, moisture, you might actually be able to, you know, argue and say, yeah, you can touch it, but those are the things that some people might take to be supernatural because it deals with like darkness. You can't necessarily like touch it and stuff like that. So it may seem supernatural, but like particles, even to the smallest form, like scientists of quantum physics, they don't think that dark matter or matter, they don't look at that as supernatural either. They just don't understand it fully all the time, but it's not supernatural. So I think that sometimes we just gotta like make sure we have a clear understanding on what we take supernatural to be, or what exactly supernatural, like the denotation of supernatural is, like outside of science. So when we're dealing with anything in science, even in the smallest form, you know, subatomic particles, that's not supernatural. You know, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it, you know, it's supernatural.
And you know, to your point, sight is the one of the most, you know, we got out of our five senses, sight is the most stimulated sense. And most of our senses, right, it which is our input from the outside world, comes by way of our head. If you think about it, see, touch, taste, hear, smell. Seeing, we have eyes. Where are they? They're on our head. They're in our head, right? From our neck up. Where are hearing? Where we hear is in our head. It's from the neck up. Smelling is in our head from our neck up. It's on our nose. Tasting, our mouth. Where's our mouth? Our mouth is on our head or in our head, from the neck up. So the majority of our senses are above the neck. The only sense that we have below the neck is the sense of touch, because we have nerve endings all over our bodies and everything, and we can actually reach out and touch things, and grab something. But all the other senses are from the neck up. So we have this psychological orientation of our command center being in our head. And that's what the word head means. You know, the head is like the captain, the top, the leader, and things like that. And so I'm saying that to say, because people lean on sight, even out of all those, people lean on sight a lot. And so when we negate things, we negate them in related to sight. So if something is unseen, then they invoke supernatural. Not everybody. I'm just saying that's why that occurs a lot, because if it's unseen, they confuse supernatural with just because you can't see it. And then you got to use words like tangible and stuff. So until you get into a physics conversation where everything is made up of atoms and things like that, even the air we breathe is made up of atoms, but they're not arranged in a way where we can see them. And think about this too. Our eyesight, we can only see a very, very, very narrow spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is visible light. So we're vulnerable. We're like very, very limited, very, very, very limited in terms of sight. So when we rely on sight to use it to relatively say what's supernatural and what exists and what's not, man, we are doing ourselves a disservice. There's so much more to the world than that narrow spectrum of visible light that allows us to see stuff. So, of course, we got five senses, but I'm saying most people lean on sight to invoke this supernatural conversations and stuff. You know, what's natural, what exists, what don't exist. Oh, you know, and they use them as example. They say, well, we can't see air, but it exists. Like, yeah, it exists. So I'm saying to your point, that just adds on. And I'm saying we gotta understand. That's why we can't rush none of this stuff. We gotta really, really admit our weaknesses, our strengths and our weaknesses. You know, when we probe the physical world, the natural world, we gotta understand where we're weak at and where we're strong at. And that's why we invent gadgets. Because think about it. Most of the scientific gadgets that are used in science are extensions of our five senses. Think about that. What is a telescope? The telescope is an extension of our sight. It allows us to see further than we could see naturally. So the telescope is our eyesight on steroids. The microscope is our eyesight on steroids. It allows us to see smaller than we can see naturally. But both the telescope and the microscope are two ends of the spectrum of sight. And we invent these gadgets to expand our senses. Why? Because we recognize we're weak. Our sight is limited. Same thing with hearing. We do this all the time. That's what science does. That's what these gadgets do. They actually expand the human senses. That's what all these gadgets do. And so now we got electron microscopes where we can see subatomic particles and the Hadron Collider, and we can observe these things now. You know, so the unknown starts to shrink. So the invoking of a supernatural or a deity or a god becomes less and less and less and less, because we know more and more and more and more. You know, so we got to keep that in mind. And so when we talk about and we try to project these things on other cultures, we can't do that. It's not fair. It's not fair to do that. So I'm saying, I'll repeat, the Egyptians did not believe in a supernatural. Everything to them was natural. God and creation are one and the same, and there's nothing outside of that in their conceptualization. Period. All the deities they had were part and parcel of existence, and therefore not above it, but within it and it itself. Again, this eternal, infinite, and undifferentiated substance started to differentiate and become the things in the world and the world itself. And listen, y'all, I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna do a future show, and I want y'all to remember me saying that, because I said it a few times earlier. I said it just now, because I want y'all to, put it on your mind, think about it. It may sound weird right now, but we'll talk about it in the future, because you're gonna realize, like, man, it's gonna hit you like an epiphany. You're gonna be like, man, I get that. Watch. But it takes a little time to unpack it, and I don't want to do that at this late hour. So we're gonna have a future show about that. But anyway, anything else? I've been posting a link. Anybody else want to jump in here, or anybody else got some things to talk about? Because we got at least 8 minutes. 8 minutes, y'all.
Okay, so since we have 8 minutes, I have 2 quick questions. So and anybody can answer that on the panel on the chat. So for those who believe, I'm not saying those like you specifically, but for those people we know that believe and hold a Abrahamic belief system or practice those, when they die, do they get to see God?
Yeah.
Okay. And so with what we read today, for the Egyptians, if they were to visit what people say is the afterlife, or the duat, or polygates or whatever, how some people translate it, do you think they would be able to see God, or what is known as the imperceivable?
Some people probably thought that.
From the text itself, when you read it, would that be possible?
I think some people would probably think they could.
But see, I'm sorry.
No, you can answer.
I was gonna say, if the very name of this deity is imperceivable, then no one would expect to perceive it.
Right,
if I'm telling you, like, for example, if I name something wet, you're not going to expect it to be dry. If I'm calling it wet.
Right, because the text says is imperceivable. Not even the gods know his name or his true form, and he dwells so farther than the duat.
Yeah, let me put it back up so that because some people may not be clear on what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I kind of missed that. I came in kind of late. I didn't actually see it.
Yeah, that's why I kind of figured, because earlier we went through this portion of the hymn to Amun-Ra, and all of these statements that are being made in this small section is pointing to the fact that Amun is imperceivable. And so it elaborates on that, though. It starts to this is like a full allegory expression. And so it says unique is Amun. We have Wa Amun, which means Wa is the word one. So it's also a word for unique. So Wa Amun, which means Amun is unique. So he's unique. He's one of a kind. And then it says he who keeps himself concealed from them. Okay. Then it says who hides himself from the gods. You have Sahab Su Netcheru, which is he conceals himself, hides himself from the Netcheru gods. So the Netcheru don't even know his true form, don't even know his name. And remind you, this is only a small portion of this hymn. There are other hymns and there's other descriptions about Amen that reinforces this all along. Like everywhere you read, you'll read that they're just elaborating on the fact that this deity is imperceivable. And so further down, let me move this arrow down so y'all know where I'm at. Further down, it says that he is more distant than the sky. and he is deeper than the duat. And so that's a way of saying that now, again, it's just reinforcing the fact that he's imperceivable. If you look up at the sky, you're not going to perceive. If you try to imagine the duat or the underworld, he's not there either. Or you're not going to be able to perceive him there either. And then it goes on, none of the gods even know his true form. He's not written about. It says his image is not revealed in the writings, and so on and so forth. But then we have this king in the 19th dynasty, this king called Tutankhamun, the image of the living Amun. How can it be an image and then there's no image?
Right.
So,
I mean, we say the same thing about, God and Christianity, though, right? Like, no one has ever seen God, but, in the afterlife, you will be able to see him. Well, at least Jesus. And I guess it depends on if you believe in Trinity.
If you do good deeds too, you'll be able to see him. And that's the difference between the Abrahamic and what we are reading here. That's what I was trying to point out.
Okay.
That on the other end, you hope to see, or those who believe or practice Abrahamic belief systems, you do good deeds so that you hope that in the afterlife you can be next to God.
Hey, let me I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at the time. I just want to because some people may have said a few things. I'm scrolling, and they didn't get a chance to come in. So I just want to make sure we didn't miss any questions that people asked in the chat. Because I see one from Admiral Magi. And if y'all see any, let's go ahead and try to handle those before we end the show. So he says, if ancient Egyptians weren't spooked people, why there was food left inside the funeral room for the deceased to eat while in the afterlife, and why did Kemet have death penalty for killing cats? And he says, So let's I'm gonna make this disclaimer. I always say this, that superstition exists in all cultures, in all periods, even today. As advanced as we are in 2020, there are still people who are superstitious. So we have to, again, this is, I keep saying we slow the conversation down because we tend to kind of broad stroke all Egyptians and the whole culture and all this and that. So we do have to realize that there were some people in Egypt that were superstitious and spooked. All right. So I don't want to give the impression that I'm saying that everybody in Egypt was Albert Einstein or Neil deGrasse Tyson, So that existed, and it still exists today. Superstition exists. People who don't like number 13, don't want to cross black cats, don't want to walk under a ladder, don't want to open an umbrella in a closed room, all that kind of stuff. But so back to what you're saying. Now here's the thing: these food offerings were vocal invocations. We say peret cheru. They were the emergence of the voice. They were voice offerings. And you have to understand that even in ancient Egyptian times, criminals in ancient Egypt used to make attempts to rob, and they were successful too. I'm not going to say attempt. Some attempt and failed, some attempted and successful. Robbed the graves, robbed the tombs. I'm talking about royal tombs. They knew their life was in danger. That's a crime punishable by death. They risked their life to rob a tomb. Now think about it. Think about this. If the people believed that the person who's buried is gonna actually go somewhere, like literally, and this goes back to the figurative versus literal expressions. And I'm gonna say this till the wheels fall off. If people literally believe that this dead person in this tomb was going to literally go to a place called the Duat, and all the items buried with him is going to go with him in this place, literally to a Duat, why would they risk their life to break into a tomb? Notice I said break in, which means it was sealed and locked and guarded. They broke into the tomb to rob it. They had to think that everything was still going to be there. And you have to understand, Kemet lasted for roughly 3,000 years. Let's just put a round number on there, 3,000 years. From Ramses II going backwards to Khufu is about 1,300 years, 1,300 years. The people living in Ramses' day, he was a 19th dynasty king. People living in Ramses II day, in the days of Ramses II, have never seen anybody ever come back from the dead. Ever. Nobody ever walked out of any of those tombs. And guess what? Those tombs existed throughout Kemet's history. That's why we find them today. That's why archaeologists today can go to the Valley of the Kings and dig them up. They're still there. They've been there since then. And none of those people ever walked out of the tomb. So, and I'm saying this to say that these people, we project this spooky thing on these ancient Egyptians. And yes, there were people that were superstitious and stuff like that, but we do a disservice by just blanketing saying, okay, they were spooked out, only because we don't even understand the realities behind the way they figuratively express themselves. So we think the Egyptians, yes, the Egyptians believe in the afterlife, but we think we know what that afterlife was to them. Their conceptualization of afterlife. Like I just now tonight said that the Egyptians do not believe in the supernatural. So if somebody would have asked me, Wujao, did the Egyptians believe in God? I say yes. But it doesn't mean that you know their concept of God, though. So if they ask me, Wujao, did the Egyptians believe in the afterlife? I say yes. But it doesn't mean you know their concept of an afterlife and what that all entails. You see, that's the difference, and that's the challenge. And people got to slow it down and really put in the work if you're really trying to know. If not, then, hey, we could just have entertaining conversations. But if you really want to know and get busy and stuff, then let's get to work. Let's put in the work. But you're not going to sit there and argue with me about what the Egyptians believe, and you don't even know about figurative language. You don't know about the different aspects of figurative language. You don't even know how to read the language that the Egyptians documented their culture in. I'm not going to have an argument with a person like that. I'm just going to encourage the person to study so we can both walk together and try to piece these things together. So I'm saying, the whole thing about food and stuff like that, the same thing. There were vocal invocations. We read one. I wish I had one right now to show y'all real quick. We read one called the Hotep Di Nasut offering formula. Those things were not offered literally. Those items were not left literally. They were drawn. Like, oh, let's show this one. This picture I have right here. Maybe not that one. What's the other one? Oh, I slid it off. 1 second. Let me move it. This one right here. And it's quite big. I got to shrink it back down. I just want y'all to see the whole picture. Okay, now this is a crop picture, of course. It's only a little crop, but you see the deity Amun right here. You see all this food right here? That's drawn. That's written. That's carved. Again, the word elephant is not the elephant itself. If I draw food, it's not the food itself. So food being offered to the gods, it's drawn. And so we have signifiers and the signified. And I'm telling y'all, it takes some explaining, but it's just not what people think it is. And we got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that. You can't look at this because, the other day, I don't have a picture to show you all. But like, for example, this guy right here, this king right here, this king, his name is Kawaf Ta'u. That's one of his 5. The king has 5 names. One of his names, his Heru name, is Kawaf Ta'u. That name means the bull who subdued the lands. So he's called the bull. Does he look like a bull? Did the king see himself as a bull literally? Did the Egyptians see the king as a literal bull, the animal? The answer to everything I just asked is no. So to understand what this means, one, we got to be able to read this to even know that it says the bull that subdued the lands. That's step one. And you got to learn the language to do that. Then you got to say, okay, that's figurative. Now I have to go above and beyond learning the language. Now I got to dig deeper and get the reality of what that means. Why did the king identify as a bull? That's a metaphor. Kings are bulls. That's a metaphor. But what does it mean? If I say I got butterflies in my stomach, you know I mean nervousness. You know that because you're part of this culture. But we're not part of Egyptian culture, so we got to put in the work to figure that out. And that's what I'm telling everybody. Slow it down, put in the work, and figure this stuff out. That's what we got to do. You can't sit here and pretend that you know, and you can't even read the language, which is the very first step. You know, so I just want to keep emphasizing that. This king is not a bull. The bull is significant in the culture. Just like fire to us in our culture means attractive, agreeable. When I say those shoes are fire or those shoes are hot, those shoes are hot. So what does a bull mean to the Egyptians? And I could tell y'all just a bit of it. The same way, just a tidbit. The same way we look at horses today, the Egyptians looked at bulls. We use horses to judge power, and we call engines by their horsepower. This Mercedes has a 300 horsepower engine. That Lamborghini has a 750 horsepower engine. This lawnmower has a 10 horsepower engine. In ancient times, they used bulls for the same thing, among other things as well. But that was one thing that they used bulls for in terms of the metaphor. The figurative expressions of the bull is a judgment of power and success and victory and virility. So the kings were powerful. The bull of his mother, Kamutef, that's the name, Kamutef, Kamut-F. Ka, bull, mut, mother, F, his. The bull of his mother, that's what the name Kamutef means. Okay, so I'm just giving y'all reasons to slow the things down. And when you hear people talk about Kemet, tell people, man, hey, slow it down. Slow it down. We gotta slow this down. If we listen, that's if we really wanna do Kemet is just do and really get into the nitty gritty. I mean, if we want to keep romanticizing, keep commercializing, and just have fun and entertain, set up these debates and stuff like that, then hey, people can whatever floats people's boat. But hey, people can do that over there. So I just want everybody to understand that it's not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. So I don't know if I quite answer your question, because if I talk about the food thing, where it originates and how the leaving of food offerings to ancestors, how that developed over time, that gets into a longer conversation, because it gets into the idea of early humans trying to explain where or what happens when decay sits in. When animals die, they decay. When humans die, they decay. When food dies, it decays, but we just say rot. We say food rot, the apple rot, but it decays. And so to explain what happens, or to explain what we now call the decaying process, it ties into all that kind of stuff. But again, that gets into a longer conversation. All right. So I know we said 1:30. Man, we do this. I do this every time. I'm not even gonna blame it on nobody but me. All right. Was there anything else? Cause I don't even want to look. Cause it'd be another question. We're gonna talk for a whole another hour.
I think the issue is that just we come from these Abrahamic religions and we were taught to look at these things literal. So we just kind of, put that on the Egyptians automatically.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed is like the same thing people do, like you say with the Abrahamic, with the Bible. It was something called eisegesis, like process interpreting text, and it's like they do it basically however they want to. Like I guess preachers use it or whatever. Then there's a exegetical method where it's like a more rigorous, you know what I'm saying, textual criticism, like really checking behind what this mean. And I think that's what people be doing the projecting using that the exegesis process from my observation.
And that's very good. That's excellent. I'm glad you said that because it's gonna take us to really. I mean, we don't have to become experts. We don't have to, get a master's or PhD in all these different fields, but we're at least gonna have to be familiar with the field of semantics. We got to be familiar with the field of pragmatics, semiotics, rhetoric, and stuff like that, and textual criticism by all the different varieties. We're just gonna have to do it, and if we're not willing to do it, then we just need to shut up and leave Kemet alone, and really leave all these cultures alone when it comes to text. These cultures that we're past cultures that have writing. Because we can't. Because listen, this is what's happening on a higher level, on a more macro level. Okay, when it comes to Egypt, the European communities looked at Egypt as this mysterious, spooky place. It was them that were spooky, and they spookified everything about Egypt. They say that the Egyptian culture was created by this lost civilization that got sunk in the water from Mu and Lemuria and Atlantis and all this other kind of things. You have that going on. Then you have people believing that the Egyptians had the secrets to the universe, and that if they could gain the secrets that the Egyptians had, they could rule the world. And they say that those secrets were hidden in symbols, and that the hieroglyphs, these sacred symbols or sacred carvings that they call hieroglyphicus, contain the symbolisms. They never even looked at the glyphs as a writing system. They did not believe that what they were looking at was a visual representation of speech. I'm gonna repeat that. The European community prior to the decipherment, prior to the late 1700s and the early 1800s, prior to that, they looked at the glyphs. They didn't look at the glyphs as a visual representation of speech. Instead, they looked at them as pretty symbols that were symbolic for secrets. And so this is what we're doing with the text to this very day. We're looking at these texts and we're failing to realize that we're looking at figurative expressions that have realities behind them. So what happened is during the decipherment process, you had Britain and France racing to see who can crack the code. And long story short, France, with Champollion is given the credit to decipher it, but on their road to decipherment, they had to at some point they had to realize that, wait a minute, y'all, this is a writing system. These glyphs correspond to a spoken language. You listen, you had thousands and thousands of people who never even considered that or believed that. They refused to believe that the glyphs were connected to a spoken language. So it took some intellectuals among them to say, wait a minute, these glyphs represent a spoken language. And it was from there that they had to, go through the whole years and years and several contributors to go through the decipherment. That was step one. They had to they now found out, wait a minute, man, this is representing their language, the speech. But at the same time, you had people who still didn't believe that. You had people who branched off and still see everything as a symbol, esoteric, the ether, the Akasha records, all that stuff spiraled into what we have today, known as the Theosophical Society, the Order of the Golden Dawn, Rosicrucians, and all this other kind of things that people take the whole esoteric and ether thing and all that kind of stuff and spin it all the way out of control. Then on the other side, people treated it more scientific, and they started a discipline out of it called Egyptology, the study of Egypt. That's that route. So we had a fork in the road. We had two different routes. Now, what's going on today is the flip. Today, we got people in the conscious community who swear up and down they know about Egypt. They're looking at the Egyptian text, and they actually think the Egyptians took everything that they wrote right there literally. They think the Egyptians believed that a crocodile, hippopotamus, and a lion monster really existed in the Egyptians' mind. Like they really believed that monster literally existed and is going to literally eat your heart, or whatever the case is.
Booja,
Yeah.
this Kofi, I just popped in, man. Okay, a lot of these people that is taking a lot of this stuff literally, I'm trying to understand. I don't understand why we keep talking about it when, okay, these guys that supposed to have been studying Kemet or any app, and most of the people that are taking it literate that study Kemet, they also say they study West African culture or African culture in general. When we talk about Kemet, we talking about Africa. You said something a while ago where you was talking about the body decaying. So, and the what's the name decay, and so they was trying to figure out why the body was decaying or something. So they started asking questions. So most people, if they study African culture, they have to understand that you can't take a lot of the stuff literally because the people started. This is how the mythos or the myths or the folklores or the folk tales was developed in the first place. Was man started to look at things in nature, catastrophical events such as earthquakes, such as thunderstorms, so many different things that was happening with the animals dying and decaying, birth, women bringing forth life out of the womb, people dying and don't know where they're going. So people begin to ask questions. People look at the sky and see shining stars in the sky, falling stars, all these different things they started to have questions about. So once they began to start having questions about these things, so they started to create things around it in order to explain their questions. So they began to come up with these things, these myths about this and that, and it does have some reality around it because they tie it into the things that they see on an everyday basis, the things that they have, of the people have went to. I just don't understand how people can still take a lot of these things literally if they say they study Africa extensive, Kemet, East Africa, Central Africa. Because a lot of these people that I see that take it literal, they say they study other African cultures too. So I don't understand why people are still taking this thing literal. And I understand those that may not study extensive, especially those I say in the conscious community. Half of the people in the conscious community, they coming. I say it out. They coming out of the Abrahamic faith. So they are getting these ideals from archaeologists, anthropologists, interpretation, not believing such and such, or looking at it from their worldview. Theorists, these theorists that came up with these different things about Kemet, Africa in general. These investigators that didn't never been in Africa in the beginning, come up with these different stories. These missionaries. So I just don't understand how these people are still taking these things literally if they say they are masters or been studying African culture extensive for 15, 20, 30 years. It just beats me, man.
Yeah, listen, I share everything you said. So you preaching to the choir right here. But you're right. And I think I know why it's going on. And so that's what we're here to kind of bring it to people's attention and point it out so that people can have an informed decision to say, hey, let's slow it down. Let's investigate these cultures in a more rigorous way. Because if we don't listen, we're going to not only do the culture themselves a disservice, but we're going to do our venerated scholars who paved the way for us, like John Henry Clark, like Diop, like Jacob Carruthers, and all the others that have paved the way for where we are right now in scholarship overall. We're doing them a disservice by not slowing it down and being more and more rigorous with our investigations and things, and utilizing all the tools available to us. There's no excuse why we don't know about all the varieties of figurative language and how it's used in classical or ancient manuscripts and writing. There's no excuse. No excuse why we don't know about semiotics. No excuse why we don't know the properties of language and so on and so forth, whether it's oral or written. So we really don't have any excuses today, because now we got cell phones, iPhones, smartphones and stuff. We learn how to do all that stuff, learn how to play Xbox and PS4 and everything like that. But we're not taking the time and the same motivation put towards gaining these skills so that we can learn this stuff. And that brings me to this comment that I see from Abro Magi, and he says that he says sometimes intuition's worth 1,000 times more than words. Even knowing the meta-Netcher is imperative, you got to admit that Kemet is long gone. It's a pile of sand. You'll never get it right. Now, see, that's the challenge, though. If we start off our journey by saying, I'll never get it right, that's a pessimistic stance. Then we might as well not even do anything. It's the opposite. We now have tools available to us today to paint the picture, to fill in the gaps, to actually get it right. And that's the problem. People don't know that. People don't even know the tools exist, or people are not interested in tools. You have to do so much. It's a lot of work, but we can do it. That's the point. And I did a Facebook post. I listed some of the things people are going to have to get into. If you want to really do this thing, you better strap up your boots and get to work. Otherwise, then people should just be like, all right, well, let me move on to something else. That's it. That's where it's going to get to. It's going to get to that point, because sooner or later, it's not even worth entertaining the conversations if people are not trying to put in the effort. Because I've just being on Facebook alone, I've been on Facebook since 2009, 2010. So that's 10 years. In 10 years, I got a chance to see how redundant conversations become and how repetitive people can be and stuff like that. At a certain point, you got to just cut it off. Be like, all right, listen, it's same old, we're going to cut that off. Not going to explain this stuff over and over and over again to the same people who try to word it a different way. At some point, people got to strap in and do the work, So that's just it. And it's not. Listen, it's common because we use these things today. We use these things today, and we can go through every single system today that people hold dear and point these things out. And that's why I had a brief conversation about Nation of Islam lessons, 5%ers lessons and stuff like that. You can see it there. Now, what are we going to do? Just call Nation of Islam spooky because they believe in Daddy Shabazz, or this big-headed scientist playing with magnets in the backyard, playing with the black germ, brown germ, creating the white man, calling him the devil and stuff like that? We're going to say, oh, y'all spooky? Or are those stand-ins for something else? And they don't literally believe that. Same thing with Freemasonry. They don't literally believe that stuff. Those are lessons that are put into allegory and illustrated by symbols to teach a group of people a lesson. So why
Can I
can't
actually?
I'm sorry, go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask, the brother from the Masi Warrior clan about West Africa, because I'm just starting to study about it. I don't know a lot about it, so he sounded like he studied it a lot more extensively. But so like in West Africa, they didn't believe that they can literally like affect nature by doing these rituals.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I can't hardly hear you. I'm driving. What you say now?
Oh, okay. Like
No,
in West Africa, they
no.
didn't believe that they can literally affect nature by doing these rituals. Like if there's a famine or just certain rituals they have, they didn't think this actually was gonna affect reality, or this was just all symbolic.
It was all symbolic, man. They didn't believe that they. Oh shoot, I'm missing the turn. Uh, they didn't believe if they did certain things that the rain or fall from the sky. Um, all of it was symbolic, man. I mean, they didn't believe in. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We have to study the cultures to understand exactly like what he's talking about with the reality. Everything is so spooked out. We done got to be so lazy now. So whatever whatever we see or we believe, like we'll look at doing let me see, and they have on certain types of masks. I mean, these certain types of masks that they will have on, people saying the same thing that they was conjuring up the devil. I mean, all these spooky things that they talk about, they get these things again from the prejudiced anthropologists, the archaeologists, the theorists, the investigator, the Catholic Church, all these different things that they don't understand until they delve into the culture and
You gonna
study
leave
the
the
culture.
missionary out of it?
Oh, and the missionary as well. And all these things, it's good that we're talking about because this conversation, I mean, this conversation turned. I already have an article already out in the Pan African Journal, kind of on this same subject. But then just talking about the literal thing, I'm gonna try to put out an article hopefully this weekend. It's called "Confusion, Misunderstanding, Ignorance." If ignorance about African traditional religion. It's a long title. Under attack by Western society and our unstudied, because a lot of the people that's in the conscious community, I call them unstudied too. So they look at certain things in a different way, and they look at it spooky, or they don't understand it, or they'll read a certain piece of literature and not investigating a certain piece of literature, and then they coming up with these same spooky conclusions about this and that. So in this article, I'm gonna slow it down a little bit, and I'm gonna break down, and I'm gonna talk about the how and the why these people did certain things, why they do how they come up with these certain rituals, why they explain certain, why they explain certain things, how now we became the world. We started to take these things literally because we come out of the Abrahamic faiths. But I'm gonna talk about a few people. When I'm gonna talk, that's what I mentioned, the theorists. A lot of people, we don't talk about these theorists that existed, that never went to Africa in the beginning, they put out a lot of writings that a lot of people are still regurgitating. A lot of these investigators, I'm gonna point out some of these prejudiced anthropologists, some of these archaeologists. So I'm going to break it down and slow it down and show how we came up through via the Atlantic slave trade, how they conditioned us, um, changed us, and we're looking at the same. We're looking at these traditions in the same worldview as the Europeans looking at these traditions. They never could figure out why they did X, Y, and Z. So they explain it the best way, I guess, that they can. A lot of it was prejudice. Like I said, a lot of it was pseudo. All these other different things that Sable talked about too. I may put that in there. Um, the Knights Templar, the Dong, these other organizations that sprung from this, where we got all this other pseudo crap that's out, Matter Belaski, all these different things that's out now. So be on the lookout. Hopefully for
This
that.
boy
All
gonna
right.
be fire. That's gonna be a
Uh,
fire article right there, man.
What's that? What's the
yeah,
journal that you're referring to?
it's the Pan African Journal. It's the Killmonger Corners Pan African Journal. It's an article that brother Benjamin Njai published. So it's got a lot of people from the Marcy in there,
Yeah,
Sekou
if you're
Giles
familiar
in
with
there, SARS in there,
if you're
Settings and
familiar with Black
go
Panther,
ahead.
the brother Black Panther, Ben,
Mm,
you probably maybe
yeah,
familiar with him. But
with
hey,
Black Panther.
listen,
Yeah, Black.
it's 2 a.m. and I definitely want to wrap it up. And if I don't just do it, then it's never gonna get done because I'm actually trying to scroll and I was getting ready to start addressing some things that people were saying. And man, we're gonna take it another half hour, and then people gonna say something else. Another half
My
hour.
bad.
No, not you. No, not
My
on you at
bad.
all. No, not at all. I'm just saying. Um, no, as you finish, I'm gonna use you as the cutoff point. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. So let's
Oh,
just.
I'm done, man. I'm done. I'm done.
Oh no, I'm
Could
saying
somebody post that journal link?
let's okay, maybe Sean could probably post that journal link. So listen, I really appreciate anybody who was tuned in. Listen, we came on, we started late, unannounced as we've been doing lately, and I mentioned we want to keep this going. Now we normally don't start this late as we did, but we want to keep these discussions going. All right, and it's a good turnout. People on the panel, people in the chat. If your question or comment wasn't read or addressed and you feel that we didn't get to it, if whether you're sharing or asking questions, we're gonna do this again. We're gonna keep it going. All right. So be easy with that. We're gonna get to everything. And I wanna, have these conversations to get the feel of what people are asking, what people are sharing, and what they're focused on. Because 2020, this is for January. Because come the end of January, me personally, I got to shift into a different mode. I have this book coming out by April, which is going to be a complete analysis of the Egyptian grammar, and so I'm gonna be publishing that textbook and starting to teach the grammar for people who took interest in the beginners level of study. So that's what I'm doing personally, and so I got to really get busy with that. But in the meantime, I want to have these conversations so that afterwards I am working on other books that I already started, that I put on the back burner for a bit, and I'm gonna pick those back up. And it actually deals with this topic. It deals with this topic. Okay, so or these topics, and why people want to jump straight to the esoteric stuff and bypass all the required knowledge, you got to have and everything. So I'm gonna get into that. That's why I want, I'm basically, getting feedback from you all already, so that I'll know what to address and how to deal with these different things, and also, with other people. So let's pass the mic those who are in here right now. If y'all have any closing remarks, let's just go ahead, pass the mic, and we're gonna close it out.
Hey, I just want to say, regarding to just the topic, real quick, the information that Kemet provides has already been broken down to some of the smallest forms. So it's already sort of what you could say microwave. So the information has been broken down to the smallest forms and may not be simplified to us, but it seems like really simple in terms of the pictures and how you understand it. So when you look at something like this being like broken down to the smallest form of microwave, you don't want to sort of put something that's already been microwaved back in the microwave, because it gets nasty. And that's what's kind of happening when people are trying to interpret through just sort of looking and just guessing based off of their understanding today. They're putting something that's already sort of broken down to the smallest forms and, back in the microwave. Anything you put in the microwave is already nasty, but if you take it out and you put it back in the microwave, it gets even nastier. So that's all I wanted to say.
Hey, appreciate you for letting me up on here. Uh, that's all I got to say. Travis, I'm out.
Yeah, likewise, appreciate it. I think maybe like, if you put a lot of these conversations like in a playlist and just refer people to that playlist, that'll keep, from having to make these redundant arguments over and over again.
All right, anybody else? Emiket, June, if June's still here.
Yes, yeah, I'll just like to say, Dua, thank you for, everybody that's been listening and participating. It just makes the conversation really interesting and to learn a lot of things in a fun way. So yeah, thank you very much for participating, and remember to share the videos on Facebook. And if you haven't joined our group, do that so we can have more conversations in there. Dua.
Sean, did you get a chance to say anything?
I'm good.
All right.
Oh, and real quick, to Russ, and I know we might have to actually go over what language is next time, but just to plug in the book, because the question that you're asking about what language is, whether it's written or spoken, I think our book has the Egyptian hieroglyphic system, writing system been deciphered, a rebuttal to Walter Williams. That goes through, what language is, pretty much, from the basic stuff, because I think there's a misunderstanding about if you can intuit language, or is language, is something that is structured and conventional. So get the book. I think, if I'm not trying to plug the book, but hey, get the book if you have some kind of if you're not really understanding what language is, because I did explain what language is, but it seems like I think you might be making it into something that is outside of that realm, like for intuition and things like that. But yeah, that book pretty much explains what I was trying to write on the chat.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna and speak on that for one hot second. We did videos on language. Excuse me. We did videos on language. And just so y'all know, intuition and theory come from the same. They meant the same thing at one point. They spring from the same concepts. So people who think intuition is something special, it's really not. Theory and intuition come from the same thing. I want y'all to look that up. Look into that. Language is communication is the transference of meaning from one person to another. And because we're not telepathic beings, we don't have direct communication from mind to mind. We have to package meaning into a vehicle called sound patterns or written patterns ever since 5,000 years ago when writing was invented. Prior to that, it was simply sound patterns. So we have to package a concept or a meaning into a vehicle, sound patterns, and then transfer it to another person, and that person has to take that vehicle and then unpack it and decode it back into the concept. And the only people that can successfully participate in the phenomena we call language are two or more people that have the same set of signs in their mind. And so we can have another future show, because we did this before. We can have another future show on exactly what is language. Language is a phenomenon, and the way we use it is an illusion, because the words themselves are not the items, especially substantives or what you call nouns. They're not the actual items themselves. They are stand-ins for those items. And I gave the example earlier. The word elephant is not the elephant itself. So there's two sides to every single word called a sign. There's the signified and the signifier, and then the link between the two. And we went over this before, and so we'll do a future show on what exactly is language in and of itself. All right. And we can't intuit it because we're not telepathic. We don't operate that way. All right. So just so that people understand that. And intuition, look into it. Intuition, as it is used today, has a spiritual connotation to it. Spiritual perception. That's what they're using that word as today, spiritual perception. But then it gets muddy, it gets ambiguous, because now you got to explain what is spiritual, and then you got to say what is spiritual, and then what is spirit exactly, to unpack that, and that you got to slow that conversation down. We don't have time to do that tonight. So again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, share the video, and thumb it up if you like it. You know, and if you don't like it, don't thumb it down. Just talk to us about it. Talk to us about it. No, but we look forward to doing this again. And so just keep your eyes open. We'll you know, we go live. You know, we come out the blue with it. So I'm gonna say Shimon Hotep. And I am still on here, so I just ended the Zoom part of it. So I'm gonna say Shimon Hotep again, and again Dua, which means thank you, and I'm gonna say Good Fear, which means good night, and Shimon Hotep, which means, you know, to depart with satisfaction. So I hope y'all are satisfied tonight, and I'm gonna say Shimon Hotep again.